What's happening, everybody? Thank you for coming back on a Monday. I hope you had an amazing weekend. My pals down there in Texas, God, I hope you're doing all right with the crazy storms. We made it through our storms in the Northwest, and we got power, we've got people, and I've got amazing guests, not only today, but the entire week. Got a lot to get over, so I wanted to make sure that I thank my sponsors here at 5 Star Guitars. If you go to youtube.com/allaccesslive with Kevin Rankin and subscribe, you'll see all the episodes that these guys have helped sponsor. So 5 Star Guitars is based in Beaverton, Oregon, which means that they have no sales tax. So you save a ton of money already. And then if you go to the link below, 5starguitars.com/allaccesslive, you're going to see 5 or 6 different pages with a ton of gear with 15% off using that promo code. So you're going to get 15% off by using the promo code of Access15 by going to 5starguitars.com/allaccesslive. 5 Star and Audix microphones. Audix also based in the Beaverton area, the Portland, Oregon area. Sorry. There's no sales tax there. They provide these amazing mics, amazing headphones. AudixUSA.com is where you go, and no sales tax for those. Now, this is amazing. This dude and I connected a couple of months ago. Bad Brad Berkwitt is the guy that has more energy than anybody I've ever met in my life. This dude you might think is wired up on caffeine and whatever else. He's got so much going on in the boxing world, and he's had a lot of great political conversations back and forth with people on both sides. And more importantly, this dude likes to help people. We talk decency, ethics, morals, integrity. And so there's a lot to cover. I'm just going to bring him right in. This is Bad Brad Berkwitt. Brad, what's happening, man? How are you?
How you doing, brother? Good to see you again.
Yeah, man. You too. I wanted people to know that when you and I first met, we talked music, right? You had talked to me about Flock of Seagulls and playing with Animotion. And I thought this was more about a musical connection until you and I started talking about the values and the sort of stuff that we were inspired by, the things that we held dear to our hearts. And you're an empath. It blew my mind that you're an empathetic, soft-hearted guy because you're very bombastic. You're very outgoing, and you've got a lot of energy. Yeah, you're from New York, so yeah, forget about it. I know you and your tagline. Man, I can't wait for people to find out a little bit more about you. And we could talk a little bit about our conversations like on and offline, because I had more fun talking to you offline over the last couple months than even the time that we spent, doing these conversations. So first of all, I want to talk about your backdrop. This is wicked, man, because you've been a wonderful servant to our country in the military. So you want to go back a little bit about your military service, and then thank you, by the way, for that.
You're welcome.
And we'll tell me a little bit about what's on your wall.
About the wall. Before I do, I want to start out like this. I got an email this morning from a mutual buddy, Johnny Cristo, all the way from England. They're 6 hours ahead of us, and it said, "Hey, bro, hey, champ," because he knows about my induction. I'm going into the Hall of Fame. We'll talk about it later. But he said, "Hey, champ, make sure you tell Calvin I send him my love." So Johnny Cristo wants you to know he sends you his love.
Let him know that I'm wearing his shirt right now, man. I got my Escape Club shirt. That's great. Awesome.
Thanks, John. Love him, man. When he came on my show, we bonded, man. Him and I talk in email a lot. Okay, so my backdrop, like you said,
yeah,
I did 20 years and 28 days in the military. So let me just explain that little piece. So everybody says, why do you say the 28 days, Brad? Because I came in September 2nd, 1986, and I retired October 1st, 2006. So there's 28 days there. So I got credit on my DD-214 for 20 years and 28 days. So the backdrop, the flag that you see behind me, the big flag, that was flown when I was stationed in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, the real, not You Can't Handle the Truth, Jack Nicholson movie one in 1995. The picture, where am I? Over here.
Yeah.
Is Admiral Jeremy Michael Border, who was the chief of naval operations, one of the greatest people and leaders I ever met. A tragic story about him. I don't want to go too much into it. It'd take forever. But he came to Cuba and he presented me with an award, and that was the picture. And he laughed at me because the Italian side, I turned to him, I whispered in his ear, and I said, "Admiral, I got a photographer right there. Can you look at the camera?" So that's, I don't know if you can really see the smirk. He was smirking like, this son of a bitch literally just told me to look in the camera. He had all these photographers, this whole press pool, but I said I got my own. So, and then over here, here is from my days when my book came out in the paper, the Washington Post, and here, and then above here, that flag is. Let me see if I can turn it just a little bit, and I'll put it back. If you can see my shadow box.
Yeah, buddy.
From when I was in the military, all my awards, and then all the way over here. Can you make out the gentleman, the fedora?
I can't. There? No. But
that is I'm the biggest Frank Sinatra fan. Oh. That is actually the newspaper when Frank died on May 14th, 1998. So that's framed in some more boxing. This is basically my life. It's boxing and my military stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, tell me about the boxing connection. Where's that from? Are you a boxer?
I was a boxer. Yes, I was. Okay. I've been around. I started following the sport in 1975 at the age of 7. In 1980, I ventured into a gym called Allen Park, and I was signing up for football, and I heard a noise that captivated me, and it was it was somebody hitting the speed bag, so it was the repetition of the and I turned to my dad, and we walked over because there was a wall. So you had to go in past the wall. And I saw the gym. I was just mesmerized. I turned to my dad and I said, could I box instead of do football? And he simply said to me, Bradley, if you put everything into it, you could do it. And for the next 3 years, he was at every fight, every workout. And this was in North Miami Beach, Florida. I boxed all around Florida as an amateur boxer. And then years later, I had all this knowledge of the sport. I started writing in 1997. I did my first interview in 1997 in print. And out the gate, believe it or not, with my favorite fighter of all time, Aaron the Hawk Pryor, two-time junior welterweight champion, WBA IBF junior welterweight champion. In my opinion, the greatest 140-pounder ever. Wow. So he was my first interview. Started doing interviews. That's how I made my bones. Big names, George Foreman and Kenny Norton, Roy Jones, and the list goes on. Had a book come out in 2002, Boxing Interviews of a Lifetime. If you Google it, you can pick it up. And then 2004, fast forward again, I started Ringside Report because I got tired of working for other websites that didn't have my vision. And I'm the type that always wants to recreate. Sure. I want to go big and bigger and change things up. So started it in 2004, 17 years ago. Okay. Strictly boxing at that time. Was against MMA, but then realized from a business perspective, I'm not a big fan of it, but I had to cover it because I had fans. Okay. Started covering MMA. And then 3 years ago in 2018, because of this Mama Luke that was in the White House, Trump, decided that we're going to go into politics, because I had a lot to say, go into politics, entertainment, and everything else. So now my vision of Ringside Report for my daily readers is one-stop online magazine that has boxing, MMA, other sports, entertainment, politics, human stories. I got people that are dealing with a lot of stuff with depression, and a lot of things that they're dealing with, that I've given them a format, a platform to write about it to help others out. So that's where we're at. That's where the boxing came in, and I'm still love the sport. And last month I got the honor of a lifetime outside of retiring from the military. I got contacted by the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, the president is Steve Canton, and he called me up. And I didn't know what he wanted. He said, "You got to call me. You got to call me." I'm like, "Okay. I'll call you later." So I called him, and he said, "I want you to know that you're being inducted into the class of 2021 in the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame." Now, people get confused because I boxed. I'm not going in for boxing. I was an amateur. I'm going in for my media, for being in the media for 24 years now of covering the sport. Yeah, 24 years, 2021, 24 years. So in June, God willing, knock on wood, come high or hell water, unless they postpone it, we're either driving like the Griswolds to Florida in 17 fucking hours, which I don't want to do, but I'll do it with them, or we're going to fly. I'm going to book the flight next month, and it's going to be an honor of a lifetime. It's going to be tough for me, I'm not going to lie, because my father passed on July 2nd, 1998. Yeah. And he's going to be there in spirit, but I'm going to talk about them, and it'll be tough, like it was for me in my retirement, to talk about them. So that's where the boxing came in.
Unbelievable. I knew about the writing, and I think it's great. And congratulations on the induction, man. I mean, what a cool opportunity to go in as a writer. You know the sport. I mean, obviously, as a young boxer, you said you were 14? 15?
I was 12. I started at 12 and I got out at 15.
What a great time, though, right? I mean, as a young man, just
getting
testosterone.
And then you look at the 80s, Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearn, Sugar Ray Leonard, and a lot of those fighters, I actually trained at a gym that Angelo, during the day, he had the professionals there. Angelo Dundee, who was Sugar Ray Leonard and Muhammad Ali's trainer, one of the greatest trainers ever. During the day, he had the professionals. We came in at night, but sometimes we had crossover. So I would see some of these very famous fighters, and that I watched on TV. Yeah. It's funny, the older we get, now all the fighters are younger than me, but then they were all older than me. I'm like, it's just the reverse.
You talked about interviewing these guys too, and you mentioned some of the big, the heavyweight champs, Kenny Norton and Foreman. Foreman is one of those guys that kind of transcended in a weird way. He was a media guy, right? He went from this fighter to a household name. He's got this cultural status.
Yes.
When you interviewed him, did you get the personality side of him, where he actually kind of, because he cuts a rug? I mean, it seems like he's cracking jokes every minute, right?
Yeah, I got the Bill. As you know from me interviewing you, I'm the type of guy that I go deep.
Yeah. It's
not just your normal questions. You cover the bases, but then you throw those things in there to get stuff out of them that you don't. It's really, I'm interviewing them. Don't get me wrong. I love my viewers and I respect them, but I'm really interviewing them for me because I want to know. So I always figure if I'm enjoying this or asking something, my viewers most likely are going to be like, I like that question. The one thing I'll say about George Foreman is an interesting character. He definitely transcended with the grill. He was on HBO. But if anybody really knows the sport of boxing, George was not a nice guy in his first time around.
Okay.
He was not well liked. He was a beast in the ring, but he wasn't well liked. But somebody got with him and said, "Hey, George, you got to change it up, man." And he did, with the gregarious smile and the laugh and the grill and making fun of himself about eating hamburgers and all of that, which was brilliant because he made a ton of money when he made it.
Right.
So, but he was a neat interview. There was a lot of them along the way that were. I always get asked, what was your favorite one? And that is a hard question for me because for the most part, like I tell my guests on my show, they're special to me in all different ways because there's usually a connection with them that the average interviewer doesn't get because they never boxed. Even though I was only an amateur, wasn't a professional, but I knew what it was to train. I knew what it was to get hit in the face. I knew what it was to have a cornerman, yelling in my ear and all of that. So I understood all of it, and I brought that into the mix.
I love that you have that experience. It seems like even though you might not be, say a drummer or musician, when you talk to me about A Flock of Seagulls and about playing music and how I was raised as a musician, you did a ton of research, right? And you knew how to connect with people. So I appreciated the fact that you and I felt like friends the first time we talked. And I see that happen with you a lot. I've watched your interviews with politicians. I've seen your interviews with, celebrities, musicians, that kind of thing. How about people that you don't have a real fondness for? Because I have not done that, right? When I talk to people on the show, it's people that have inspired me, people that have, but what I have seen is that you've turned things around with people that you might have gone in with, an idea that you might not like them at first, and then they end up being your friends, right? If they're on the other side or they think something different.
Well, yes and no. I don't go in. I don't like agendas. I've seen interviewers have an agenda, meaning they're going to attack this person and put them on the defense automatically. I'll give you a case in point. We became friends. Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch. Love him to death. Very supportive of my show, Class Act.
Okay.
He was a Trump supporter. He worked there. He coined Scaramucci, which is 11 days. They said, now you get a Scaramucci, it's 11 days. And he coined it. And it's like pop culture now. I had nothing against Anthony, but there were things that I had to understand because he was the first one that I interviewed politically that supported Trump. Then he got off the Trump train and supported President Biden. But I had to understand and I had to ask him tough questions. And I did. And I didn't. And in fairness to him, he never ran from them. If I were to, people said to me, I wish you would have interviewed Trump. I said, Trump wouldn't last the first question with me because he wouldn't be able to overtalk me. I wouldn't let him deviate from what I was asking. And he wouldn't make it about himself. You know, all of the things that a good interviewer is able to do. So when I was interviewing Anthony and asking the tough questions, and he had his reasons, and I would come back with, well, this, he knew that I wasn't coming at him from a place of anger. He knew I didn't have an agenda. I wasn't there to embarrass him, but I was there to get in his head and understand, why did you say this? Why did you do this? By the time we were done on the first interview, he said to me, you came at me more direct than anybody has ever come, but not like an asshole direct, as an empathetic person, but being tough. From that point forward, we clicked. Today, I had on CNN Republican political commentator Alice Stewart. Now, I wanted to have her on the show because, in fairness to her, I've seen her talk. She's a diehard Republican. She's a conservative. Our beliefs are totally different for the most part. But I didn't know if she still supported Trump, or she did. She did vote for him in 2020. Now, I asked her, would you be willing to answer that question? And I wanted, if she would have said no, I would have said, I respected your privacy. But she admitted she did. The insurrection was her bridge too far. She said 2024, I would never vote for him again. But she also, even though she liked some of his policies, she conceded the humanity part, which I said, well, how did you, I said, I can't support a racist, a misogynist. You're a woman. I respect you as a woman because that's how I was brought up. He demeans women. She didn't like any of that. She never condoned that. Now, I couldn't support him. I couldn't support, if President Biden somehow woke up tomorrow and changed and was a misogynist and all this, my respect for him would be gone.
Sure.
It would be gone. I don't care if his policies were the best things in the world. I wouldn't vote for him again. I'd write somebody in, or I'd sit it out, or so, I don't know. But I couldn't, it would be a bridge too far, because you can't be my political leader and then be, I don't care that it was gruff, Kevin. That's the thing. I don't care that he said things that weren't politically correct, because I'm not politically correct.
Sure.
But he was demeaning to people. He was a racist. And I always go back to Charlottesville.
Oh, yeah.
And I brought up with Alice. I said, Alice, you couldn't have liked it. I said, but here's the hypocrisy. I don't want to get too deep into Trump. But whenever I talk to people, Anthony too, I said, here's the hypocrisy about Charlottesville. This guy said there were fine people on both sides. Fine people. Don't call black people the N-word or Jews the K-word and then yell out blood and soil. Jews will not replace us. But here's the problem with what he said and why he's rotten amongst many other things, human being. His daughter converted to Jew, and people don't bring this up. I do. She converted to Judaism because she married a Jew. Jared is Jewish.
Okay.
Their kids are Jewish. If my father, who was the opposite, but if my father did that, I couldn't look him in the eye. I'd love him, but I couldn't look him in the eye no more. I said, we're done. You feel like this? We're done. He said those things, yet he's got grandkids that are Jewish.
Yeah. There's a lot of hypocrisy in politics regardless, but something really important, something you touched on there that I love as a military veteran, as somebody who supported the country, it's country over party, right? I mean, that's the big thing, right? And so, and beyond that, after you and I talked, decency was the most important thing that we talk about, for a politician. Now, we just had a special election. We're voting for a new mayor in my city, right? So the mayor, they pushed the mayor out, the local mayor for Oregon City, where I'm at. There were a lot of unethical things. Now, when I looked at the candidates, there are 5 candidates, and I look at their policies, I look at their characteristics. I want to find somebody that's congruent with my values, right? And you and I talked about this about ourselves. We look at politicians that are aligned with our ethics and our values. And when I see that there's anybody from any party that's out there that devalues humans, that's the part that gets me. Doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, Independent, doesn't matter, right? And I think if you're cool talking about it, I love that you got the sense of civic duty from your dad. I mean, the stuff you sent me on your dad brought me to tears. It was incredible, man. And so you were raised with an objective, compassionate, empathetic household. So tell me a little bit about your dad and his civic duty. Okay.
Yeah, you get through. Hopefully I won't get emotional on this one.
That's good.
Trevor Steele got me when he's saying I'll be there. But that's true. I sent you the clip. So in the 1970s, well, first of all, my dad was always for the underdog, whether it was Native Americans, whether it was during his time, Negroes, they said Negroes, and earlier colored people, that Negroes, and he died before African American became the term. So in 63, my father marched with Martin Luther King. All right. All his life, my father was bar mitzvah, he was Jewish. I was raised Catholic. I wasn't bar mitzvah. I was raised, my last name is obviously Jewish, but I wasn't raised Jewish. My joke, I'll make a little joke before I get serious. I'm Italian on my mother's side. I'm Jewish on my father's side, so I'm Russian and Italian. I always tell people when my book came out to break the ice, I said, what does that mean? I like expensive things, which is the Italian side, at a discount, which is the Jewish side.
Yeah.
So I cover all bases.
Nice. Okay.
So growing up in the 70s, I'm from New York, but when my parents divorced when I was 7, I was raised by my father. So in 1975, I went and lived with my dad. In the middle 70s, you had an evil person named Anita Bryant, who was on Miami Beach, and she was against the gay community. Now, my father wasn't gay, but he was for anybody that their rights were, if you discriminated against them, or if you were a racist. My dad was the first one there before it became in vogue to protest. I mean, there's always been protests, but I mean, you got some people that they're full of shit. They out there and they just doing it because they want the camera in front of them and the press. My father wasn't a huge name, but he was a large voice. So he went out against Anita Bryant because they were passing a bill. Basically, she was saying if gay people teach your kids, your kids are gonna become gay. Just insane bullshit.
Right.
He didn't like that. So he got with a community, a gay guy, community activist named Bob Kuntz. And he was the head of it at that time. And he protested. Well, the clip that you saw was the NBC Nightly News on June 2nd, 1977. Wow. So my dad was 49 years older. This is the touching part that is emotional for me. I knew about him fighting because I tell you, before I get to where I found out about that clip, I went with him to, at the time, the Miami Beach Auditorium. Now, I was 9 years old, and my dad wanted me to be exposed to these things because he wanted me to see how the real world was.
Right.
We weren't rich. He didn't have a lot of money, but he wanted me to see how other people, how black people were treated, how gay people were treated, how Native Americans were treated. That was the foundation. So we go, and we're sitting in the auditorium packed, and Anita Bryant has these guys come out like Nazi fucking stormtroopers.
Oh my God.
With the sunglasses that you can't see, like the state troopers, in boots, and they're basically marching like the Nazis did. They were called Cops for Christ.
Oh wow. So
I see this. So I'm in school, you know, I don't know what my dad's doing during the day. Fast forward, 2009 rolls around. And I don't know if you ever saw the movie Milk, where Sean Penn won the Oscar. Amazing. When he played Harvey Milk, the gay guy who they killed in the politician in California. Whatchamacallit, Feinstein was the mayor, Dianne Feinstein, Democrat senator. I get a phone call, and somebody says to me, and it was a year that I really missed my dad. So he said, Bradley, you're not going to believe this, but I think your father is in the movie Milk. I'm like, there's no way. He's been dead for 11 years. What are you talking about? He's been dead since 1998. He said, no, watch the movie. And this is around the time thing. I kid you not. I woke up, went downstairs, and just turned on the TV. This is just randomly. Turned it on, and Milk was on at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. A minute before that clip came on, because that was public footage that was in the archives. I see it. It starts out with the clip. I think it starts out with Reagan, and then it goes into that clip. I was floored. Tears were coming out. I was floored.
And you had never seen that footage before?
I never seen the footage. I never knew about it. And then somebody else told me about it. So being the way I am in the media, I said, I got to find out about this. So believe it or not, and I sent you that article where I talked about it, I reached out to a guy named Ken Rabin, who was the guy on the movie Milk that Sean Penn won the Oscar for, that found that footage. And he said, yeah, your father was the one with the kind of like the ball cap on, and where he's talking about if you discriminate, if you allow just one human being to have his or her rights taken away from him as a human being, then pal, of course the pal's a New Yorker in him, then pal, you don't have no right when they come and take away your rights, because if you say screw you to them, they say screw to you, and then basically 6 million more Jews wind up in the toll. I mean, then people start getting killed. And he said, I'm a GD Jew, and I'll say it from the rooftops. Ken says to me, I put it in the movie. It was the most strong part of that footage. Wow. He says, Brad, do this. Contact this guy at NBC Rockefeller Center. So I do, and I tell him all about it. He said, not only do I have that clip, I got footage that wasn't in the thing. Wow. So I got extra footage where he tells this guy, he goes off on this guy that's coming past him talking shit to him. So I got it on DVD.
That must have been heavy.
Oh, it was unbelievable. And there's another clip if you go on my website. He's in a mustard sweater. It's a year before 1976. He took on the school board, and he was on the news for that. And he was against paddling, corporal punishment in schools, because he felt that teachers were taking the easy way out and just beating the shit out of the kid. And the schools were saying, well, you're not disciplining at home. So we got to, in 7th grade, man, I got paddled a lot. And I got paddled with a guy that had a paddle that had holes in it, and he was a handball player. So when he took it back, the air went through it. Let's crack your ass. Oh. But he fought about that. So that's where the passion. My father taught me at a young age, he said, you don't look at the color of somebody's skin. You look at the quality of their soul. He didn't care if you were straight. He didn't care if you were gay. He didn't care if you were black, white, Native American. He didn't care. Yeah. He looked at the person. If you're a rotten person and you're white, then you're a rotten person. If you're black, you're straight, you're gay, then you're no good. But it's not because of the complexion of your skin or your sexuality or anything like that. Right. And he said you treat the janitor like you treat the CEO. So it stayed with me. So when I started getting successful, a certain level of success in boxing, and I was around big guys, not just the fighters, but presidents of hotels where they had boxing matches where I would go and cover. I was never in awe of anybody, because it was everybody. You are no better than me. Right. You put your pants on one leg at a time. And that was my dad. That was the quality of my dad and me. So that voice didn't die with my dad. He didn't have social media like I do. So until I take my last breath or I have my last sense, hopefully I don't get dementia, I'm going to speak out. I'm going to speak out on what I think is right. I'm going to speak truth to power. I'm going to hold all politicians accountable, Democrat, Republican, or other. It is country before party. I was a Democrat. I became a Republican. When Trump was the nominee, I left and I was an independent. Okay. I would vote for a Republican. It would probably be on a state level more if I thought that they were doing the right things for me and the constituents, but me and people that I care about. But I'm not one of those guys. Like, I like John Kasich. I like John Kasich. I'm not sure. You're not supposed to. If you're on the left, you're not supposed to like any Republican. No, I like to. And here's the thing I told Alice today. No candidate, and this is just common sense. It's not prolific thinking. No candidate is going to check every box. Right, of course. So you have to figure out what is your bridge too far. I'm pro-choice, but I'm not going to put somebody down that's pro-life. Yeah. But don't just for me, you could be pro-life, but I don't think you have a right to tell a woman what to do with her body. That's my biggest thing. I'm not somebody to sit here. I'm not for abortion for somebody that's irresponsible, that is a guy that won't wear a condom or get a vasectomy, or a woman that doesn't get her tubes tied or thinks I have sex with 50 guys or 50 women. That's your business. But be responsible and don't have 22 kids. Right. You know what I mean? That's God. I'm sorry. What I meant to say was not to have 22 kids. Is don't use abortion for you every time that you want to be irresponsible. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. No, I think you talked about not people not being able to check every box. Is there a possibility that at a global level, like right now, working from the president down, it's so tough to get a wide demographic of people where you could get 100% of the, you're never going to get 100% of like any audience, believing in the causes. No. But, my children over the last several presidential elections, my kids have gotten to the age of voting. And we talk about having to start local, right? I mean, you've got to start at a local level, whether it be, county or city or, like statewide. When you do that and you have some impact, a lot of young people didn't want to vote, right? Because they felt like their vote didn't matter, or they felt like because the electoral college is really a pretty messed up system,
it is.
They don't want to get involved in at least making their voice heard that way. You're doing a really amazing thing by using social media to not only extend your beliefs or your opinion, but you're bringing stuff to light, right? When you turn the lights on, you pull the covers back a little bit and you can see things for what they are. That gets rid of opinion and it just shows fact, right? And then people can make decisions based on fact versus opinion. Is it possible at this point right now? I know that when we switched over and when President Biden took over office, I know that one of his first speeches was, hey, we've got to put this division away. We've got to be able to reach across the aisle. I don't care if you voted for me or against me. I'm here to support you. A lot of people talked about that being political rhetoric. And to me, I thought, whether you believe it or not, that's exactly what needed to be said and what needs to be done, right? When I hear so many people divided, I think it makes me sad. Really, I stopped watching politics because I got to this point a few years ago where I let everything outside that I had no control over screw me over, man. I mean, it kept me awake at night. And I know you and I have talked offline, like your temperature rises, man. You get your blood rising. And I thought,
so I think, are you asking me, do I think it can change?
Yeah.
No. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
You had 74 I try to deal in facts. I don't talk on topics that I don't know about. If someone says something to me, I'll be the first. I don't know. I'll go research but I don't shoot from the ass. I don't shoot from the hip. I shoot from knowing in my head. Okay. You had 74.2 million, even though Trump is 75 million. You had about 74.2 million people vote for him. This man didn't want to wear a fucking mask, which drives me nuts.
Right.
I don't want to wear a mask, but I wear it because I care about humanity. It's not comfortable. I'm not comfortable with it because it's not natural to me.
Right.
But I wear it because I care about somebody else. Okay?
Okay.
He wouldn't wear a mask. You had people, the diehard trumpets that said, if he would have just said, I'll wear a mask, then they would have wore a mask, which they're sheeple. They're not people, they're sheeple. When you have 74.2 million people, you're not going to get a lot of those people to come over and do the right things. I don't leave out of the house without a mask. I got one in the car. Deb's got one in her truck. She's got one in mine. I got one in hers. We make sure we got 2 masks. She buys the best mask that we have. We listen to Dr. Fauci. Okay. We don't attack him. Did he make some mistakes? Of course, because we never dealt with this before. But you can't tell people that. You're supposed to be, Dr. Fauci's supposed to be 100% right. If he was 100% right, and Trump would have done the right thing, we would be past this.
Right. Yeah.
We would be past it.
For sure.
It's proven if you wear a mask, but you can't get people to do that.
Well, okay. Of the 74 million, how many can at least look at facts?
Anthony and I talk about this all the time, Scaramucci, because Anthony says you got to give them an off ramp. Okay. I'll give them an off ramp. I'll talk to the ones and try to reason with them. I don't care if they stay Republicans. Kevin, I was a Republican, but it was only for a short time. But regardless, I never had a problem with a Republican. Policy differences, sure, but not when they would not come to, when they were okay with kids in cages. I was like, I can't talk to you no more. I've cut people off that I'm done. I'm done with them because you can't reason with them at all. So you could probably peel back some, but you've never seen an ex-president getting ready to do the shit that he's going to do, and they still follow him. And the thing is, let me give you an analogy for you viewers, and people be like, wow. Osama bin Laden, right? Horrible person, right? But I'm gonna tell you one thing he did for his people, how he got his people behind him. It's fact. He fed people. He built hospitals. He gave people that had nothing something. Rotten human being they should have shoved C4 up his ass and blown him up. But he gave them something that when they had nothing.
Right.
What the fuck has Trump realistically done for the poor white? And I don't understand our people, Caucasian people. What has he done for you? He wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire, but he tells you he cares. Go to Mar-a-Lago. He'll tell you the deliveries are around the back. Right. You can't sit there in a gaudy chair with gold dishes and the most gaudy decor you've ever seen. The people that go to his rallies, you don't see it. Right. You don't hear about it.
Yeah.
So you're not going to peel.
There's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect.
Yep.
You may peel some away after the insurrection. I think you did peel some away.
Yeah.
So you got to find common ground. You had mentioned President Biden. He was not my first choice. He was not my second choice. He was not my third choice. If I would say anything else, I'd be lying. But do I think he's the right man for this time? Yes. His experience, his empathy, and his compassion, because people forgot. Even people that want to attack him. The president is also the comforter in chief. And I said to Deb, if only for Trump not to be in front of the bully pulpit anymore and insult us and degrade the office and talk about people. Because let's be honest, most guys, if Trump talked to them like that, we would knock him on his ass. If he talked about your daughter like that or your son, I don't know if you're doing, if he talked about your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, you drop him where he stood, and rightfully so. But he talks like that because he's 50 fucking secret service agents deep. So it's easy to do it. He wouldn't. How about this one? I'm going to march down to the Capitol with you, right? That's what he said.
That didn't happen.
Right. He went to an SUV and went back and watched it in a tent with Jared and his daughter and his cocaine coked out of his head son with the camera, right?
Yeah.
When the hell did Billy Bob turn to Stevie Bob and say, hold the fuck up?
Yeah.
Where is Trump? We're walking too fast.
Yeah. No, I mean, there'll be movies written about that day for sure.
Yeah.
And for you guys watching right now, was I right in that this guy has more energy than anyone you've ever seen, which is awesome because we need people with energy to peel the covers back. I want to know what guilty pleasure Brad Berkwitt has. I've talked about a lot of musicians. I asked them, what would be something that people that know Brad, what would they be surprised to find out about you?
Well, one is they always come up with my nickname Bad, and they think you're not so bad, you're so compassionate. Where's the bad?
Right.
The bad actually is good. The bad came in 2000 from a ring announcer named Henry Discombobulating Jones, who would announce me. I used to, I'd be clean. I wore a suit, and I was always, clean at ringside. But when I did my interviews, I was always I never made them about. I made them about my interviewee, not about me. That's the problem. The interviewers get in trouble. Right. They make it about them. Yes, when I talk to political people, I do get a lot of points out. But when I'm talking to musicians and stuff like that, I'm able to focus more on them because I got to pull them into talking points. So the nickname was because I always stood up for what I believed in, and I always looked out for the fighters. So that's something that they're surprised about when they read my bio. My other it's not so much a guilty pleasure. They would be surprises. Loyalty is everything to me. When I watch a story on TV, or I meet somebody like you or Johnny Crystal from the Escape Club. I love that guy.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. I wish we were closer. I'd hang with him all the time. When I meet somebody and they show humanity, there's a connection there. Because I think on social media especially, the lack of humanity from all sides, from all colors, from all genders, it's constantly. And don't get me wrong, I attack people. I attack Ted Cruz on Twitter. You better believe it. I attack more elected officials, but everyday people, it's lacking humanity. And they'd probably be surprised that there's that side of it because I am very silver tongued. And if you come at me or you come at somebody I love, I'm taking you out at your knees.
Yeah.
But if you're a kind person and you're a decent person, I give you the shirt off. Like you, they say that about you. They say two things about you, Kim.
Oh.
One, he gives the best bear hugs of anybody I've ever met.
Yeah.
And they say this guy will give you the shirt off his back. I think Gore told me in an interview, Gore Depp, lead singer of Spoons, which I didn't, by the way, I didn't know about the Spoons until I watched your thing. I mean, I know you were the host. Everybody, man, I've had him on loop. Debbie walks around going, dude, you know, the little thing. She's singing it. She'd be singing it. First and last time's like her favorite song of all time now.
Oh, wow.
But the humanity.
Yeah.
That would be people would be surprised because, you know, I am a sailor. I do curse like a sailor, but the human side. I really do care about people. And when people are shitty, I got no problem calling them out.
Yeah. I love that accountability, man. I mean, that's really important.
And let me say one more thing with accountability. You're never going to see me, and I don't like talking in third person, so I'm not going to say my name. Trump does that. I hate third person. You know it's me talking, you fucking schmuck, but you got to talk in third person. I hate that. I had a general that once did that. You're never going to see me anywhere during this pandemic without a mask. I have got out of my truck and forgotten it and got to the door and turned right around.
Sure.
You're also going to see somebody. If I walk in Target and I see somebody, man or woman, I'm not going to put my hands on a woman, would never do that, but I'll light her up. If I see you attacking some 17-year-old kid because their rules are wear a mask and you're going to tell them about their, I'm so fucking tired of hearing people talk about their rights. You got the right, you don't have the right to infringe on my rights. And my right is to wear the mask. If I see some guy in a 17-year-old's face that's making minimum wage or maybe a little bit above it at Target because they pay a little bit better, yelling at someone, you're gonna see the bad Brad, the boxing side come out because that's wrong. It's wrong. Right. You're not gonna catch me not doing what I preach.
Yeah. Sure. Man, at some point, I'm sure people have told you got to run for politics, right? Because I trust that, you know, I mean, you stand by your word. And for me, and I talked about our mayoral election, you know, coming up, and I was considering having the candidates on my show because I would love to have all 5 of them there at a town hall where I could ask them real questions. You know, I'm nowhere near silver tongue like Brad Berkwitt, but I really would like to know from them about how they stand behind those policies. Cause I saw, you know, in their short bios, they talk about their compassion for homelessness and their desire to bring jobs to the area. And I'm thinking, you know, I've been working with homeless outreach a lot over the last several years. I never once saw you guys at any of these committees. I didn't see, you know, and so, you know, for me, I want to believe what I'm being told by their actions. Right. So we'll see, man. I mean, you know, this election's coming up. We'll see if I actually do it, but I think you should run for office. I think you'd be great at it.
I've been told, you know, the one thing there, see, people get confused. And I talked with Alice about this today. She said people, his supporters, they love that Trump said this, that, and the other. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
I'm not PC and I don't claim to be. I don't have a problem. If a president were to say, maybe he wouldn't say it on TV, but if he were to say it where you could drop the F-bomb and say, Putin, if you put a bounty on our troops' head, I promise you I'm fucking coming for you. I'm not going to be mad, oh, you know, he shouldn't have said it. He should have said it in a play. No, I'm cool with that. But Trump speak is a bunch of lies. He tells you what you want to hear, and then he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. If I'm telling somebody something, I believe it. Like my father at the end of that thing, remember when he shook the kid's hand?
Yeah.
And he said, I believe in what I'm saying.
Yep.
See, that's the thing. You got to believe in what you're saying.
Right.
And you have to stand your ground. The only thing I would say to you is absolutely, I would love to see you interview those guys. Only thing you got to be careful with politicians or people that are in the media. And I'm in the media, but I'm talking about people that are guests that talk.
Yeah.
Is a lot of times they're very good at deflecting and not answering the question. And see, that's why Trump wouldn't last me. So when Trump wouldn't answer my question, we wouldn't get to question number 2 until he answered question number 1.
Sure. And
that's what a lot of people like to do.
Yeah.
They don't want to answer the question. Politicians do it all the time. I see people that work for President Biden get asked the question. They might say, so, perfect example. You had the guy, you know, President Biden came on, I was for it. President Biden said, if I catch you disrespecting anybody, you're fired. Now, I don't know if you watched the news. They had a guy who was the assistant to Jen, I forget her name, Psaki, with the red hair, the new press person. Well, at first, they suspended him. Then he wound up resigning. They probably told him, you need to resign. But I'm not going to lie to you. If I was President Biden and I was aware of the things that he was saying to that reporter, I would come out because I said it and say, you're not getting the opportunity to quit. I'm firing you because that's the way I am.
Yeah.
I'll back you to the wall. I'll stand in front of you. I'll take a bullet for you. But if you do something that's against my beliefs and it's that against it where there's no discussion anymore, you're gone.
Yeah.
That's the problem. People don't want to answer. So they ask them and they give you 14 different answers, but it's never the direct answer. And that's a political skill. But in fairness to me, as you can tell, I'm a talker, and I've been doing this a long time. And I did 12 years as a boxing analyst. So I was the one being interviewed. I learned the way of the, how it works. So
that's, I like to know that about you. Because one question you asked me when we had our conversation was, what is one question that's you've never been asked before that you would like to have been asked? So I want to know that from you.
What is, okay, it's a good one. It sounds familiar. The one question that I've never been asked, let's see, I see why it's a good question, right?
Yeah.
It would be, the quickest answer would be, are you, people talk and social media gives people a platform that shouldn't have one. Are you really who you say you are? Now, if I were to have Debbie come downstairs, she doesn't curse like a saint. Well, unless she's yelling at me. Yeah. But she doesn't curse like her. She would say, and I would agree, what you see is what you get. If you don't like what he's saying it. And, people don't like to take constructive criticism. I don't have no problem with constructive criticism. Where you go south with me is if you're coming from a place of jealousy, try to belittle me. If you say, hey, Brad, you need to turn your camera this, or I had to buy another camera when I first started. Somebody was saying, hey, Brad, the first camera I had, because I couldn't get one because of COVID, believe it or not. Yeah. And Marielle Trump, who's a friend of mine, said, hey, we got to do a Zoom interview. I'm like, oh, shit, I don't have a camera because I never did one before.
Okay.
So my camera wasn't that good. It was constructive criticism. Hey, people would say, you need to up your quality. No problem. The question would be, and then the answer, because that's the second part of my question that I asked, are you who you really say you are, and these things that you say because they're so easy for you to say them? Is it because you got the gift of gab, or do you really believe it?
Right.
The answer is, I have the gift of gab, and absolutely I believe in what I'm saying, because the things that I say to you and I say on my shows or to my guests, or what I say in our bed in the privacy of our home, I can't stand discrimination. I can't stand people attacking the LGBTQ community. I stand with them. I don't like when Democrats and Republicans put party over country.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to put, I understand winning elections in politics. Country has to come first. I defended this country during War and Peace, and I volunteered. I don't make up the narrative. That's another thing.
Sure.
I never make up my own narrative. You can disagree with me because that's America. But what you'll never get me to concede to you is this. Case in point. Colin Kaepernick disrespected the military. He disrespected the flag. Well, first of all,
that was the narrative.
That was the narrative that Trump created.
Right. Yep.
When he called him a son of a bitch.
Right.
His cause was righteous. But see, I'm fair, Kevin. I also say, and then I'll finish that statement, that if you don't like that he took a knee, as an American, you have the right not to like. I won't put you down for it. Sure. But what you don't have the right to do with me, and you really shouldn't do, period, is change the narrative.
Right.
So he took a knee. First, he did it in another way. An army guy got with him and said, Colin, do this.
Yep.
That flag, I didn't take an oath to that flag. And I'm not somebody, this is an American right too. You can burn the flag in this country, you can wipe your ass with it. I'm not for that. I think it's despicable, but I'm not going to say you can't do it. I'm not going to condone it. He took a knee. He didn't disrespect the military and he disrespected the flag. Fact. I raised my hand several times. I took an oath to the Constitution and defend the Constitution, not to the flag. And for those same rotten son of a bitches who attacked Colin and I call them that talk about this flag. You saw those bastards at the Capitol beating cops with the flag.
Right.
But that's okay. But he disrespected it, beating them with Blue Lives Matter. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not for the Blue Lives Matter flag. I'm for good cops.
Yeah.
Not all cops are bad, but not all cops are good. I am not for defunding the police. I'm for refocusing. I'm for screening. President Biden said something. I looked at Deb. I said, I said I need my own show on CNN. I said this 2 years ago. You need cops to be better screened. We have the best psychological profiling. We have doctors that do it for a living. We need to screen these men and women when they're coming into the police force better. And when you see things because they got bullied in high school and they want to now take it out on somebody, or there are racists coming in. Look, we all have our prejudices, even when we don't think it. If you watch the lady, Jane, I forget it, she breaks it down perfectly. We all have our things. We don't even realize it sometimes. We need to screen better. And then when we get cops that are bad, we need to get them out. We need to take care of the cops that are good. We need to make sure they're getting paid well. With that said, the good cops need to stop with this back the blue bullshit, meaning for me, backing a bad cop. I'm not backing a bad cop. That's where they go south with me. But people say, oh, you're not for, no, we absolutely need police. But there's another side to that. And you mentioned something earlier about local and state government. We need local, state, and federal. But you cannot, and Democrats get kind of lazy with this, not all, but some get lazy with government will fix all our problems. No, they won't. Whether it's the best president, he or she can only do so much. Communities of people need to get together and police your own communities.
Sure.
You know, I said I stand with Black Lives Matter. You and I talked about this, about Portland. You said how it's being misrepresented. It's been proven that there were some within Black Lives Matter that did wrong, and there was infiltration from white supremacist groups who were trying to make Black lives look bad. My thing was, any group that has large numbers, you're always going to have bad actors. My only bone of contention with Black Lives Matter is not the cause, because it's always been righteous. And that's what pisses me off about the insurrectionists. They're trying to compare it. The fuck out of here. Your cause would stop the steal because Trump told you it was fraudulent, and you went there.
Right.
Only thing, and I've been trying to reach out to the top brass of Black Lives Matter. If it was me, every time you have an instance where somebody infiltrates or somebody lies on you, you got to be out there talking about it. And I can't tell you, like you had Dr. Martin Luther King, who was there. You had our beloved John Lewis. You had the faces of it. You had Julian Bond, and you had people like this. I can't tell you who they are. And I've tried to reach out to them. I can't get anything back because I want them to be on my show, and I want them to tell me, no, Brad, you're actually wrong. We do speak out. CNN is not contacting us, or MSNBC, or even Fox, though I can't stand Fox, but I can't get any leeway.
I'm so glad, because that was the last question I wanted to be able to ask you, was with all of the interviews that you've done, I mean, across the board, all through, not just entertainment, but if there was one person that you had carte blanche, right? Like they said, their publicist called you and said, Brad, this person wants to do your show. Who is your dream guest?
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Living
and dead.
Okay. Living and dead. Okay. That's kind of like my question. Who would you like to meet? Living, forget about it. Al Pacino.
Oh, okay.
Al Pacino. Dead would be Francis Albert Sinatra. And the reason why, Frank, people say, well, no, because people want to say the mafia. I wouldn't talk. See, I don't like to do the no. I wouldn't ask him anything about that mafia bullshit, because half of it isn't true. Right. The other half of it, there's some truth that, yeah, he knew gangsters. They own the clubs they played at. And the 500 Club, Skinny D'Amato in Atlantic City. The famous picture of him backstage with Carlos Gambino and Jimmy Fratantino, the Weasel Fratantino, who turned out to be right. I wouldn't talk to him about that. I would talk to him, of course, about the music, but I would talk about the things that people, the everyday people, don't know. In 1987, he was honored by the NAACP for what he did for the African American community over the years. He loved Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah.
Now, people would say, well, and people see the old clips when Dean, him and Sammy were kind of raunchy. And, today, the Me Too movement, it probably wouldn't fly. It was a different time. They were friends. I'm not saying it was right. I'm not saying it was wrong. But, Dean lifting up Sammy and saying, I want to thank the NAACP, and, jokes like that. Or Sammy saying something about he got Sinatra back and he said wopsicle or something like that instead of popsicle.
Right.
They were kibitzing amongst themselves on a stage in front of people.
Right.
Probably today they would probably change it up.
Maybe.
A whole other side. This man did stuff for Bela Lugosi, who was the first Dracula. He paid for his funeral. He didn't want to know. Watch the clip. Bono, 1994 Grammys. Sinatra he had gotten really old. I mean, he wasn't well then. One of the lines in his speech that Bono said was, the champ who would rather show you his scars than his medals. Because he didn't want to brag about himself.
Yeah.
And so he raised millions, I think maybe even billions, but at least millions for children's charities.
Yeah.
He went around the world and raised money for handicapped people on his own dime.
Yeah.
He always spoke out. And he was a Republican. He was a Democrat first till the Kennedys screwed him. He got mad at the Kennedys because John was supposed to go to his house and Bobby at the last minute told him don't do it. And he went to Bing Crosby's house, who was a Republican, and he took it to heart and he changed parties.
Okay.
But he hated Donald Trump. This is a fact. Even Nancy talked about it. He hated Donald Trump. Donald tried to screw him over in business. And he told his publicist or his agent, you can give me his number and I can tell him to go fuck himself over the phone, or you can, but you could tell him that I say go fuck himself. There was a whole nother side to Frank that I would love to get that out.
I wish so badly that I could watch that interview.
I know.
You and Frank Sinatra talking about the Trump connection. And honestly, man, the three of you together, you, Pacino, Trump, may as well get De Niro in there too, because we know how he feels. Right. So like if you got, I think there's still a shot for you and Al. I think there's got to be someone out there with
I got an autograph picture from him.
Yeah.
I want to let me make one more point since you brought up De Niro, because it's a good point for your viewers. Hypocrisy. Here's hypocrisy. So Robert De Niro goes out and he says, fuck Trump at the Emmys or the Tonys or whatever he said. He used his platform.
Yep.
My Italian brothers, who I don't understand them, some of them, a lot of them, before he said fuck Trump, which was on his platform, they could quote, you talking to me? You talking to me? From Taxi Driver, Travis Bickle.
Yeah.
They would say, little bit, the line that he used in Goodfellas when he was in the bar and he said, you got out of line to Billy Bats. He said, little bit.
Yeah.
But the minute he said that, he was a mutt, a dog, and everything else. But those same, my Italian brothers, can call him names and take up for Trump on their platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But Robert De Niro doesn't have a right to do it. That's hypocrisy.
Yeah, there's all sorts of hypocrisy there.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. My friend Claudia here, she's in Bonn, Germany. She said she doesn't understand everything. Her English is still too bad, and I speak too quickly. But from what she can understand, she agrees with this man. You know what? I mean, it's all that language is universal, right? I mean, it's decency, ethics, morals. I love that about you. I love your vehicle that you're doing, and you've been amazing at supporting me too, man. I think I would like to have a regular, conversation with you. Every few months we just bring you back, and offline, man, I just can't wait for you and I to catch back up again too. But I want you to know how much I appreciate you being able to use your voice for the little man, the underdog, man. It's props to your dad for raising you that way. And I can only hope to be able to do the same thing. Your legacy is solid, man. It means a lot to me. So I want to thank you for being here, sharing such a beautiful outlook and perspective. I'm hopeful that more people can be, just kind to each other. And these people that are watching, if you go out there, you check out Brad's Twitter. Brad is so active on Twitter, man. He's trying to get me to do the same thing. He's amazing. So check out Bad Brad SR. So Bad Brad RSR. Yep. Ringside Report, or badbradberkwitt.com. And again, my site, youtube.com/allaccesslive with Kevin Rankin. You should subscribe. And this will be archived there in a little bit. And then I'll be bringing Brad back because you and I got a lot more to catch up on. What we ought to do is take a snapshot 6 months from now, see where our country's at. We won't, everybody will be vaccinated. We're hopeful. Maybe some music's going to start coming back around and we'll have a different perspective, but it should all be on good values, ethics, and good people, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. You got a great show. I told you that already. Don't be shy. When I say that these people that I interview love you, they do. I'm not one of them guys that say things just for effect. It's just not me. When I talk to Trevor Steele and I talk to Johnny Cristo and Jack Hughes and Nick Feldman, they love you. I mean, like I said, Gore Depp from the Spoons, they have a genuine love for you. And that's because you're a decent human being. We need you in this world. And thank you for what you do. Thank you for having me on. And I hope your viewers enjoyed it. And let's do it again soon, brother. I love you.
Love you too, man.